Welcome to the Devolution Studio and to our special event that we're going to be talking about Remote Desktop Manager. If you're not familiar with me, my name is Yen, and I'm working in the marketing department. I do all the video content and all the, I get to do the YouTube fun stuff. And I have two experts with me, like wizards and experts. So first I have Maurice Cote, who's our VP of Business Solutions. So
hello.
Maurice is just gonna, he's kind of got his fingers a little bit of everywhere. A little bit everywhere. So he really understands our, the focus of where we're going, where we're headed, what the products are doing, how they work together. And then I also have Mark, and you're probably familiar with Mark because I'll be just a confession right now. Mark helps me a lot with the RDM pro tips that you see on YouTube. It's actually Mark's the one who designs everything, and I'm the one who just puts my face in front of the screen. But Mark really is a genius, a wizard when it comes to Remote Desktop Manager.
The jack of all trades.
Yeah, exactly. You've probably heard him before in the past. If you've called our service desk or customer success department, he's answered phone calls. If you're interested in buying one of our products, you can call Mark and he'll answer your questions. But Mark is really helpful in the sales department as well. But we really have a lot of just some fun stuff for you today. So as we get started, I just want to make sure that we have Jenny is going to be in the chat. So if you have any specific technical questions or anything, she'll be answered there. She's the kind of the event coordinator. She's the one who made everything look nice and put together for today. So you can ask her some questions there. We'll also have our CEO, David, which might answer some random questions as well if you have something specific about Devolutions. And I will be monitoring the chat here as well to see if there's questions that you want specifically Maurice or Mark to answer about anything about our products or specifically RDM today, Remote Desktop Manager. But Jenny created a poll, and in the poll, you can, she put a poll there so you can answer that poll as needed. And we're gonna ask questions about what product you're using, whether you're an RDM user or not. That'll help us know which to focus on a little bit more.
Yeah, because we adapt this show according to the audience. So we need that input.
Yes. And I had somebody ask me at one point, they're like, man, you guys do this all the time. Like, what is this? Is this a sales pitch or not? It's actually not at all. What we're doing is we're trying to answer your questions kind of in a more live format. It's really a fun way for us to interact with you. We have such a wealth of users on our forum right now. You guys are always asking great questions about our products and issues and technical support and bugs or features, right, that we have in our software. Yeah. But this is our opportunity. Like, we just do this for you because we can see you, we talk to you, you can ask questions, and it also gives you kind of a taste for what's coming up. Because I know as a user, you always want to know what's coming up next. So Maurice is going to talk a little bit about, like we call it a little roadmap, but just the new features that have come down the line.
Yeah, we don't have a lot of time. So.
Yeah, exactly. So we're gonna condense it a little bit, but. So I see a lot of people are joining in right now. So we're going to go ahead and get started. And if, like I said, if there's any questions, put them in the chat and we will be there to help you as well. So I'm going to switch over to the PowerPoint right now so that you guys can see, just get a little bit of visual of what we're doing today. So we're going to be talking about Remote Desktop Manager and kind of taking a deep dive into it, right? And we say roles and permissions, but...
They were renamed user groups.
User groups.
A while back. It's been a year, I think. But we still say roles. Yeah. In fact, they were renamed just because since we introduced built-in roles in Password Hub Business as well as Devolution Server, it grew confusing quite rapidly. So our own concept of a container for people, for users, or principals, if you prefer, are user groups. So that's a bit tongue-in-cheek. We realized just yesterday that it wasn't the proper term, but this is the focus of today. And this is a bit, we were focusing on the new features because we came out with the RDM release just last week. And but the user demand was in regards to roles and permissions. Jenny was doing polls all the time and asking user input, and the focus was on roles and permissions. So we're trying to do a best of both worlds. Yeah. Spending a lot of time on roles and permissions and giving you a peek of what's new. Mark is keen on using Windows 11 and dark themes, so he's quite excited. So we'll dive into that. And again, I'm going quite rapidly. Again, this is not a sales pitch. This is our platform, and we have up top the remote connection management, which by itself does wonders, productivity, security, even using our free edition. We have, what's the number now? 460,000 users of the free edition.
400,000.
400,000?
Yeah, 400,000.
I think you're out of date, but still.
So almost half a million if we're in marketing.
Yeah.
Almost half a million.
Half a million.
Yeah. And again, this is not an upselling strategy.
No.
It's not. It's just adding features and offering a product on the market that our experience allows us to do. At the lower left in orange, you have the password management in Devolutions Password Hub, specifically the Password Hub Business in our case. So this is a SaaS-based offering, online, SOC 2, ISO 27001, and so on, with zero knowledge of your secrets. On the lower right in red, you have the PAM offering in Devolution Server. So RDM, again, in itself works wonders, but by pairing with these two offerings, you can elevate your security posture. And why would that be? Well, we've crystallized the theme of our whole platform in solution tiers. You see tiers more and more on the market, and this helped us control our speech or our positioning on the market, because at the lower tier 3, you see basic network management. So you have moderate to low security requirements. Tier 2 is when you need more control, compliance, regulations, and so on. And then lastly, the tier 1, which is the most sensitive, you have governance and security. So this is the strictest environment. And this translates quite easily into our product line. Again, that tier system just helps us communicate our strategies and our positioning to all of you. So again, tier 3, basic connection management, centralized database for sharing, time-saving features, which we'll see. So that's RDM. And then in tier 2, you have a mix. You see that color, the gradient, because both Business and DVLS, Devolution Server, have offering in those regards. You have centralized identity providers, isolated databases, role-based access control, and so on. But depending on certain features that you would require, you would choose one or the other. Again, SaaS, easily maintained, is touchless maintenance, in fact, and then on-premises with Devolution Server, with full control over its surface area, in other words. Then lastly, tier 1, you have the PAM and the privileged session management, really at the upper tier, and this translates in that. So you see our platform, Remote Desktop Manager, at lower in tier 3, using individual data sources or what we call advanced data sources, basically databases that you would connect to directly. Then a business at the tier 2, paired with also Devolution Server, depending on your security requirements, on regulations that you must adhere to, and so on. And then at the tier 1, at the top, you have a combination of the Devolution Server, the PAM module, and the Devolutions Gateway. So that's the mix. That's where we position ourselves. And you can really mix and match. If I go back to the previous screen, you need to look at the features. And if you're fine with tier 3, it's perfectly a good solution to use RDM paired with SQL Server, let's say SQL Azure even. You're on Azure, you're zero maintenance for the database, point-in-time recovery. It's just an excellent solution. So that's our solution tier system. And you'll see that more and more in our documentation, in our presentations, and so on. Now, what's new, Mark?
What's new? Quite a lot indeed.
Yeah.
Yeah, so indeed, as you can see here on the list, just scripting here, default Vault VPN, inherited VPN values. This is all at the Vault level. Default Vault permissions as well. This is something that will give you the ability to have something across the board here within Vaults, to have something that starts at the top if you believe that this should apply on everything that's within it, so you don't have to change anything. Those are designed to give you default values. New permissions that were added. The move permission within entries that we will see in a few moments. Password analyzer called now Entry Analyzer, Entry Security Analyzer within Remote Desktop Manager. So there is a permission for that as well to prevent users from being able to use it. Restrict the use of user vault to specific users. We're now granular. Before we had the ability to do so at the vault level. Now we granularly control that. Hoodoo, Sono, password managers were added as credential entries in Remote Desktop Manager. So if we have any Hoodoo or Sono users today, rejoice, it's now integrated within Remote Desktop Manager. We also have the PAM credential entry within Remote Desktop Manager to give you the ability to use privileged accounts that are detached from a session specifically. So you could use that in another instance here to have this completely separate in the case where you want to use the ability to copy passwords, not necessarily to be used against sessions, but just the ability to have this on a certain basis of time. So this PAM credential was designed for that.
And now for my favorite.
Yes.
The PAM console. No, you skipped the PAM console.
Sorry, the PAM console. Sorry about that. Yes, the PAM console indeed, which basically lists all of the accounts within Remote Desktop Manager that are part of the Privileged Access Management dashboard within Devolution Server. So we've basically allowed for something that is condensed within Remote Desktop Manager that gives you a full view of what is critical, which are the privileged accounts and the current checkouts as well. The other point here, support for the modern Remote Desktop Client, MSRDC, which I will also explain as well. This is rather something of evolutionary value here that will give a lot more flexibility for the future when it comes to the RDP protocol within Remote Desktop Manager. And finally, Windows 11 look and feel. So their snap layouts, their rounded corners as well, all of that was added to Remote Desktop Manager 2022.1.
Very, very cool. So I think we're going to see a little bit of some of those features today, right, Mark?
Yes, absolutely. So first of all, I want to start with the introduction of Remote Desktop Manager. I'm certain that some people today have joined us. They've never used perhaps Remote Desktop Manager. They've never explored our products. So a quick introduction here into what Remote Desktop Manager is. Basically, flagship product, been around for over 10 years now. It's our Swiss Army knife with thousands of blades, single pane of glass when it comes to managing remote access technologies and passwords. So within Remote Desktop Manager, first and foremost, we obviously support the ability to control remote connections. So extensively, the most common one, I mean, it's vanilla here, RDP. What would be Remote Desktop Manager without the RDP protocol, right? So just launching a connection very easily here within RDM. This is the type of experience that you can expect. This is the embedded display mode. We have the ability to display external for RDP and so many other settings as well. So this is just to mention RDP, SSH, VNC, Apple Remote Desktop, and so on. We support over 150 different technologies within Remote Desktop Manager, and it's the breadth of integrations that make Remote Desktop Manager much more flexible and differentiates itself from other products that people could potentially compare us to. So that's one of the many things that you can achieve here. And I like to refer to Remote Desktop Manager with its pillars, and one of them is automation. So we've seen the ability to log into sessions. That's obviously critical here, but the ability also to automate complex connections schemes here, such as connections that go through a tunnel. So SSH here is one example. I go through a tunnel, I can automate the entire process. it becomes a one-click operation. So essentially, we're just defeating the need for launching that all manually. It's just done all at once. You just forget about it. It's a one-click, again, operation, and then you're in. So that's just essentially part, again, of RDM being the Swiss Army knife here.
And Mark, and then we do have 5% of attendees that are not RDM users, so it's
only 5%. Okay.
Well, still, I'm surprised because we send these mailings to our community, so it's normal to have more of actual users.
More actual users, 5%.
It's good that you show the power and the time-saving features.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, 5%, that's quite that's still, I'm always surprised to hear people don't know about Remote Desktop Manager. But still, yeah. So again, one of the few things here, activity log, session recording, password generator tools as well. And we've got so many other things within Remote Desktop Manager that makes it the most powerful sysadmin toolbox that you can find out there on the market. Skipping here the overall RDM view, going over the what's new of 2022.1. This is the first release of the 2022 cycle. So one of the first things that I want to showcase, which I believe is kind of a time saver even more than what it is right now, is the search and ribbon capability. So this basically outlines the ability for you to search within the ribbon. So for example, I want to copy passwords. So you've got all the options that just give you the ability to copy stuff, but you could search for administrative tools. You could search for our analyzer. You could search for logs as well. You could search for many options within the ribbon search tool, and it's all within the purview, again, of the ribbon menu, and it just gets you quickly where you need to be. So this is a very quick productivity tool-oriented option here to get you where you need to be very quickly. One of the other points, I mentioned this at the end a few moments ago, is the Windows 11 look and feel. One of the options, the snap layouts. I don't know if we can see very well here. Yep. Perfect. So these are basically, if you've, some of you are using Windows 11 right now, the snap layouts just give you the ability to separate windows, have them side by side. So this is just, instead of having to do it manually, it just scales the applications accordingly with the models that you see in the corner. So 4 choices, you decide which one is best here to adapt to your needs. So we support that.
It's really handy. I've used it before. I like that.
Yeah.
It's very simple.
Well, it's I mean, it's more to productivity because you can just easily, if you want to do file transfers or whatever, or interact between sessions, I mean, you got it at a glance here. Yep. So that's one. The second part, which was used, is the ribbon layout menus. They've changed. Before at the top, there was some options here. Basically, now we just, per Outlook's look and feel as well, because it's based on that, we've just added options, simplified ribbon. We've just put it in one place, and it's a checkbox. It's easily to bring it back because it's always there, at least to see it. And then if ever something happens, you've made a mistake here, you can certainly switch it back from there, and it just brings it where it needs to be. So that's been improved here, and you can see exactly what is happening here. So that's one option. The other options that exist, I mentioned in the list here, the credentials that exist, Psono and Hoodoo, to show everyone. This is in the list here. Within credential entry. So Psono will be right here. This is Hoodoo. So you have the choice here. Psono as well is right here. So Psono, Hoodoo, again, 2 password managers that were added within Remote Desktop Manager. If you are users of that, go ahead. And don't hesitate to provide feedback. This is highly critical to us. This is what allows us to shape Remote Desktop Manager and to make it to your needs and to your liking as well. So all of these options within a Remote Desktop Manager.
And Mark, it's just amazing to me, the quantity of third-party integrations that we have.
Absolutely.
It's the secret of our success because we will work with anyone and everyone.
Exactly.
And if they have an API, we'll work with them. So these, most likely, they're user requests. Yeah.
Over 80% of them.
Yeah.
Over 80%. I mean, it's shaped by you.
I noticed in chat, some people are like, when are we going to add so and so forth entry or feature or integration? And that's always up to whether we can get an API for it,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
And because we'll communicate that. But if ever there's a specific request, put it on the forum on forum.devolutions.net because that will flag us to investigate. But sometimes we've investigated and there was not really a solution, you know?
Yes.
So,
so it's, again, if there's an API, we'll most likely do it. I don't think we've ever said no if there was an API. In fact, we don't like saying no to feature requests.
Yeah, exactly. Because it shapes, again, Remote Desktop Manager based on what you feel is best for your productivity, best for your day-to-day needs. And so API, again, SDK, at least command line is what we need to be able to at least send parameters, being able to open the application, automate things. That's the idea here of the integrations that we have, is to make the management of these tools that you have so much easier and to combine the synergy that is our remote connection success with your ability to retrieve also credentials from products that you already use. So as Marie said here, this is what differentiates us, and it's our success as well in terms of integrations here. The next part that is of interest here, and we mentioned this earlier, the PAM dashboard. So we have two ways here to manage things. So the PAM dashboard, first and foremost, is available in the ribbon here, View tab. The PAM dashboard gives us, again, a full view of the credentials that we have, the folders that we need here that we see. So service accounts that we see them from here. We have also the checkout status. So myself as an administrator, my user today within RDM is Bob. Bob has accounts that he's currently using, so we can see them quickly from here, the ability to connect to sessions directly from here, copy password, the check-in ability to check in directly from the dashboard. So all of these options just give you exactly what you need all within RDM. You don't have to go anywhere else. It's your all-in-one interface and you work from there. So that's the PAM dashboard, but there is also the ability for you to create a PAM dashboard entry. And this is interesting because the difference between the PAM dashboard in the ribbon and the one in Remote Desktop Manager as an entry is your ability to, if you have other instances of Devolution Server, if you're running architectures or different topologies, and you're running also the PAM dashboard there for whatever purposes you've intended for it, you'll be able to see as well the PAM credentials that you have in those instances. So that's where the PAM dashboard entry was designed for, is to allow you to expand on what is possible with our products here when combining, again, Remote Desktop Manager and Devolution Server.
And again, this is a user request because we expected most of our community of users that are using Devolution Server to be bound to that Devolution Server as your data source for your connections. Well, day 2 of our release for the beta cycle, a customer said, well, I'm using SQL Server and for my connections, and I want my PAM to only contain accounts. So it was really a user request to have that PAM dashboard entry, so you can use mix and match again. That's the power of Remote Desktop Manager.
Exactly, the mix and match, whatever works best, whatever is most productive to you, you decide and you get to choose within Remote Desktop Manager. Choice is certainly very critical and part of the essence of Remote Desktop Manager. So
from a marketing perspective, okay, because no, I say that as a user, I'm experiencing the products as they come in, because we practice dog fooding here, right, where we do everything ourselves. But I'm telling you, having this PAM dashboard and things like that, it centralizes things in one location, because we know how it is. You already have 1,000 tools open, and having it where you can quickly get it at a glance, it just, the little 5-second of productivity increase instead of opening up another browser window or whatever, to me, just as a user, the usability makes sense. But thank you for suggesting these things for our users, because sometimes we develop things because of reasons and features and requests, but you're the one using the product on a day-to-day basis, and our goal is to mold it to fit your needs. What's the point of a Swiss Army knife if it doesn't have the doohickey that you use every time you go fishing, right? So no, it's,
RDM power users typically would never launch a connection through the PAM dashboard because they will have set PAM credentials on their entries, maybe use the inherited features for a whole section of their infrastructure. So they won't go in the PAM dashboard, do the checkout and so on, because RDM, its strength is to hide the complexity of jumping through that hoop, getting approval, opening a VPN. So that's what we shine at. But by giving the PAM dashboard now, we're offering a tool to the top level admin that will do the checkout approvals and so on, and to have a view of the system right within RDM rather than having to go through the web portal. The web portal will have both still, but you get to pick your tool of choice and have the capabilities wherever you need them.
That's cool. That's
yeah, exactly. It's going back to the Swiss Army knife here with 1,000 blades. I mean, it's just, there's no better way to describe it. This is exactly what the RDM is, and that's what it continues to be. And I mean, every release, it's always the best is yet to come through each release that we make. So one of the other options as well that was added, attachment and documentation support at the vault level. So the vault root. So essentially, this is your root. So if you look at the top of your screen on RDM, even on your side, some of you have RDM open right now and you're on the latest release on a team data source and you have access, this is essentially where you'll be able to add, again, documentation. From here, Markdown language is used, so images, links, and whatnot. You can do documentation pages, templates of that. If you've done it before, you can now do it at the vault level. Attachment support as well, added from there. If you want to put it in one place and it makes sense for you to go at the vault level, do so. This is there at your disposal now, and it's just a great addition to Remote Desktop Manager. Other things as well that exist. Multi-vault import and export. This is something rather evolutionary in Remote Desktop Manager because it makes your life easier within Remote Desktop Manager. If you need to transfer data, if you need to make your lives easier, if there are concepts or processes that you need to enable within Remote Desktop Manager, this multiple vault export just takes out everything that you have within Remote Desktop Manager, and it's just easy to switch basically instance database with this import or export functions within Remote Desktop Manager. So this is something that was added in this new release.
Yeah, we needed that for our Devolutions online database service, which is being deprecated. And we're trying to move everyone to either Hub Business or Hub Personal, depending on your requirements. So this was critical, in fact, for the migration out of the Devolutions online database.
Yeah, that's correct. And just a quick comment on that. The Password Hub is essentially the next generation upgrade of online database. So much more power, so much more flexibility, and so much more reach with Password Hub here than online database. So all to your benefit here to switch to online database. And we make it easier for you with these tools, especially the export, import, multiple vaults. Other features as well that exist, actually something that I find very interesting here is the visual cues that were added in the properties of entry. So if we look specifically at the session that I have open here, going into properties, you will see now that we have added small indicators of options that have been enabled within the area. So you see here, slight small orange icon that exists within Remote Desktop Manager now is to indicate that you have information such as this contained within. So this gives you, again, a visual cue here of things that you might have enabled, things you're not certain about, or things that you're looking for. If you're not sure what it is, where at least this can certainly show you that you've got something there. Perhaps at some point you're thinking about it. This is what I was looking for, and this helped me get where I needed to be because I can just see it from within Remote Desktop Manager. The same for custom fields as well. If you add information within these fields, we'll show a little number between parentheses within Remote Desktop Manager, and you just afterwards can see that you have information stored in that section as well. So those are visual cues to help you within the properties of Remote Desktop Manager. Other options as well that exist within Remote Desktop Manager that were added per user vault, per user variables and saved in user vault, to make it easier for you to manage variables that you have if you want to keep them personal to yourself and make it easier to manage resources. within a shared vault of RDM. That's a concept, shared and private. So you can have your own private features and settings, and it just remains, again, to your user. There's also per vault variables that were added. Other options that were added as well is the permission for the entry security analyzer. So this is actually here in the Tools tab, Entry Security Analyzer. This is the option that we use to analyze the security of the entries that you have. So we get to see a report here of the passwords that are stored within, and we just analyze what is within the entry, and we display basically from a report here the level of security that is being used by the password occurrence and whatnot. This is what the Entry Security Analyzer does for those that didn't know. And basically, in terms of permission here, administration, system permissions, you get to disable this or to apply specific permissions here from this section. So this will allow you to hide the tool from within Remote Desktop Manager.
Oh, and hold on, Mark, as we...
Yeah.
One thing, just I know somebody asked a question,
yeah,
and said, "Hey, are we gonna talk about roles and permissions?" But he's and that's okay. So don't worry, because I know you just saw the thing about permissions. Mark's going over the new features right now.
Yeah.
So he's gonna dive deeper into those actual user groups, and permissions and best practices and stuff. So I don't want to make sure you don't leave, okay? But he's gonna finish up. We're doing up the just the latest things that are in the latest release that help you get your job done better, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so keep going, Mark. I just wanted to make sure I addressed that.
Yeah. Oh no worries. And again, we'll see some new stuff to make it easier to manage that. So in terms of remaining new features here, one of the things that we discussed was MSRDC as the new engine for RDP. So looking at the properties here of my RDP session, very easy to switch it here. In the advanced tab, we've got two advanced tab, but it's actually this one here. RDP version, you get to switch it here. From RDP version here in the drop-down MSRDC. Essentially, this is, again, it's Microsoft's new tool within Remote Desktop Manager that gives you a different engine here to be used within RDM. So essentially, there isn't any differences today as to this product, but it's upcoming, hopefully, Microsoft's next generation remote desktop client here, and they're very similar again to MSTSC, but they handle scaling differently. And since it's detached from the operating system, they're the first ones to receive bug fixes to the engine, to the DLLs.
Yeah, to be clear, Marc-André worked a lot on that, and within our Microsoft Windows, they include a different version of the ActiveX. And this one is deployed as part of another package.
Yeah.
Okay, so for reasons unknown, they don't publish this latest and greatest yet in the basic Windows install. So that's why this exists. We just took the opportunity of grabbing that latest and greatest for these reasons you mentioned. I think there were a few bugs that were fixed as well.
Yeah, exactly. And as you said, the release cycle is much faster here.
Yep.
So from personal experience, from using it, I've seen 1-2 updates up to 3 per month. So it's quite fast, much faster than Windows, I would say, in terms of bug fixing here. So essentially, if something is affecting you in terms of the engine here, most likely our support team or us, we would suggest to try MSRDC, and hopefully they have the fix within that then allows you to keep on using the RDP protocol. So then essentially we are going forward much faster with that than other tools that could be using also, like us, Microsoft's built-in engine within Windows. So this is a great innovation here and allows us to go and fix bugs as quickly through Microsoft's quick release cycle and innovation. And also, one last thing within Remote Desktop Manager, and that's the quick, not necessarily something that was added, but rather something that I feel makes sense here in terms of web browsing capabilities. Within RDM, we now use, or rather offer, the WebView 2 engine. So this is something that is quite evolutionary here, or revolutionary, I should say, because it gives an embedded view experience that is a lot better than what we've known for many years within Remote Desktop Manager. WebView 2 is Microsoft's new Microsoft Edge browser engine. And it just enables things that before could not be done within Remote Desktop Manager in the embedded display mode. So I would suggest, if you haven't already, go ahead and try it in the properties of a web browser session, just to show you here very quickly before pivoting here to permissions. Within a web browser session, you just change the engine of the actual session here to Microsoft Edge, and it uses their WebView 2 technology. And the experience is just so much better. You'll see it for yourself, and also don't hesitate to provide feedback if you like it. We always like to hear, that you are that this has helped you tremendously. If you are current users of web browser sessions in the embedded display mode, go ahead and switch it to the modern engine. This is just basically the best. I use it myself now always, and it just works like it's just a breeze here in terms of functionality. So that's that. I believe that this certainly is of great interest here. So this overall completes the different options that we have. Well, just thinking on top here before I forget it, the inherited VPN values from the Vault here. If you want to apply Vault-wide a VPN session, you can certainly apply it from there. Also at the Vault, we've done a lot of improvements at the Vault level, especially here for the root. So we've added that. So that's possible within our Remote Desktop Manager. In fact, just thinking here.
If I might add, this is quite useful for our MSP customers.
Yeah.
They typically nowadays have a Vault for each of their clients. And that means that most likely you will go through a VPN for everything that is in that Vault.
Yeah.
So that's why it was elevated at that level.
Yeah, exactly. It just makes, again, it's part of the automation and making sure that you have only one place to switch things, because if you have it in multiple places and you have to change them, well, sometimes you can forget where you've put it. So it's just in one place, inherited, and then it's there, and you essentially forget about it. You just go on, and it becomes a one-click operation for you. That's also the essence. It's just reducing multiple clicks to one click as much as possible within Remote Desktop Manager. One last thing as well, thinking here on top of my head.
One more.
Always one last
another
thing.
one.
Another one. System settings for Vault permissions, which is one of the things that I had referred to earlier. Default permissions. This is where you'll be able to set them from here. So just very similar to permissions within the entries of RDM. We've done so for Vault-wide here. Custom, you get to set permissions here to your liking within Remote Desktop Manager, and as needed within the Vault here. So you just change what is default. As you can see, default here for these permissions. Password is always disallowed for standard users, but the rest is controlled granularly. You have the keys to the kingdom, and you essentially choose which is the default and which isn't. So that you can set that from there within system settings. So that completes our new what's new of 2022.1. So now switching to permissions, something that is not essentially tough, but it's a complex subject, because you have to take the time here. You have to take a step back, and you have to look at things and say, how am I going to design this? Especially for large enterprises when they have extensive resources within Remote Desktop Manager. You've got hundreds of folders. You've got thousands of entries. You need to have ways to easily apply permissions. You want to get there quickly, but you want to do it efficiently as well. So the idea here that we've done, and we've been doing this for quite some time now, and every cycle that we make, every release rather that we make, has always improvements within. So to start with the basics, I like to refer Remote Desktop Manager as your house. It's the thing you use, it's where you are, and within it are the foundations. And essentially the foundations are the databases that you have. So if you choose a database that is essentially with the Enterprise Edition, that is a team here under File, Data Sources. When you add a new data source under the team category, you have several choices here that you need to consider. So the ones that we have, again, Password Hub, Devolution Server, Azure SQL, and SQL Server, those are your best team databases here to consider, and they have an impact on permissions. So SQL Server, SQL Azure, Devolution Server, they all offer this granular control of permissions. They all go through the ability for you to apply permissions, entry specific, all the way down to the entry in terms of granular permissions. I like to refer it as similar to Windows and TFS. So essentially you would start at a parent folder, and then with inheritance it goes on down. And if you need to break that inheritance and apply exceptions, you can do that within Remote Desktop Manager. So with that being said, today we will be using Devolution Server within Remote Desktop Manager. This is our ultimate database offering, our ultimate foundation within RDM, which supports Active Directory security groups, domain users, and so on. This is essentially what makes your life easier, especially when you have dozens and dozens of users. You'll see why it makes all the more sense to go with Devolution Server when using Remote Desktop Manager. So
now, Mark, one thing that's important from what you're saying, though, I think is also that's kind of going back to Maurice's slide earlier about the tiers, right?
The tiers, yeah.
Yeah, because I think it's just, people sometimes they wonder, like, why is it what data source or database am I connected to? Why does it matter? Yeah. Because the data source kind of determines the functionality that we can provide.
Yes, and in that same screen, in the team-based, you had 4 choices.
4 choices, yeah.
So 2 of them are tier 3, and 2 of them are tier 2 and above. So it really depends on what you need to achieve. If you truly need database isolation, you need a middle tier, a middleman that protects the database from direct access. So there's no way around it. It's not upselling that we're pushing for a middle tier. It's just basic security that the client application cannot be the one responsible for applying security.
Yeah, exactly. It has to be the backend because you provision so many security features, so many options that just make then the use of it much better. But it's RDM is the technology provider, but then in the backend that's where the authentication layer and the security layer comes from. So these choices have an impact. So it all depends again on your needs here. And again, as Maurice said in the beginning, perhaps Azure SQL Server on-prem Express Edition, by the way, is supported here. Perhaps this is all you need. Perhaps for your requirements, for what you want to achieve, that's more than enough. You don't have to look at the second tier here. Tier 3 choices are more than enough for you. But again, we'll show you why tier 2, especially when it comes to Devolution Server, why it makes sense to go with that type of database here. So looking at the web interface of Devolution Server, essentially this is our ultimate database offering. Again, web-based product, Windows IIS with SQL in the backend, SQL Express or SQL Azure. Should you decide to use Microsoft 365 on Devolution Server, the web interface essentially gives you flexibility here. This is where you'll set things in. And the administration section, especially for those that use RDM, is what makes the most sense. So the first portion when using Devolution Server, once everything is set up, once everything is done, you want to go in server settings. You want to look at authentication. And you want to start with that part because this is where you will be giving an entryway to your users. This is where you will create them, or at least initiate the auto creation process and the import as well. So if we look at LDAP/S here, domain, you put in your domain information, all of the necessary information here. If it's LDAPS, you should enable it from here. And then this is the part that becomes interesting, automatic user creation. So essentially what we use here from this standpoint, only from this AD group, essentially all our users that we are granting access to Devolution Server are provisioned by one single AD group. And within them, we have sub-AD groups, which are essentially the ones that we will attach to the user groups within Devolution Server. So this nested AD grouping support allows us to not only automatically create users, but we can then provision the AD security groups to permissions. So this just makes things a lot more easier when it comes to import, when it comes to the automation of creation of your permissions within Devolution Server through Remote Desktop Manager. And that's why here it makes all the sense. And that's just one reason to choose Devolution Server, because of this ability to auto-create users, the security that is offered by domain authentication, and so on. Other conditional access options can be set just in terms of two-factor as well.
Now, Mark, I have there's actually, because you were talking about AD groups and authentication, I know somebody had a great question here, and I might ask it to Maurice, but their question was, if a company is only using Azure Active Directory in the Microsoft Cloud with no on-premises Active Directory, what should they use to retrieve the users and groups in Azure AD with RDM?
Well, we do have Azure AD authentication.
Yeah.
And the difficulty with Azure AD is that they do not offer organizational units.
OUs.
OUs. Yeah. So the few in the industry that have the luxury of buying the premium edition, they do have AUs. But that being said, we do allow importing users from Azure AD. Azure AD and Office 365, they're most likely the same terms.
Yeah, it's
because Office 365 is using Azure AD as authentication.
Yeah.
Sure. Now, just to clarify, I know right now we're using Devolution Server, but is that something they can do without Devolution Server, just in RDM?
Well, just in RDM, no.
Okay.
Password Hub Business will have that in a coming release. I suspect it's going to be 2022.2 in June. It may slip depending on the workload, but it's on the roadmap to support Azure AD group binding in Password Hub Business.
Okay.
For permission similar to Devolution Server, essentially.
Correct.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Great.
because, users and groups, they're principals.
Yeah.
Applications, identities, and they're principals. So any containerization is meant to be supported. So it's just a limitation for now.
Yeah.
But for time-saving purposes and for most of us that still have an on-prem AD, we see a massive push. In North America, we see a massive push from local AD to hybrid approaches.
Yeah.
They still have an AD domain on-prem.
Yeah.
But even ourselves, we're thinking of removing it completely and going full on cloud-based. In Europe, they're the only ones that talk to us about vendor lock-in and stuff like that. And so it's a different game in Europe because they want their independence. They have hybrid clouds. They're going on both Amazon, Azure, Google Cloud. They have VMs over there. They're really good offerings on other platforms. But in North America, it seems that Azure is all the rage.
Okay. Yeah. Very good. Okay, so I don't know if that, I know David responded to that as well, and there's other questions there. But all right, good. Okay, so sorry, I just
no worries. It's all good stuff. I mean, it's all to you. You get to know some great information here. So that's the foundation. That's the first part. Once that is done, I mean, you'll see that it gets faster from here. So looking at here the administration interface for Devolution Server, the next part is to create your users, or actually, at least from here, going through user groups, and then you import them from here. So this option, import, you just get to choose if it's Azure or LDAP. Take this example here. You get to see the Active Directory groups that you have. You can filter them out from here. You can hide the ones you already have. And it just makes it easier for you to filter out the ones that are actually tied to your use of Remote Desktop Manager and Devolution Server. So this is the interface here to import them out of. And obviously you can select them. So you choose the ones you need, and then you just bring them in. So that makes it easier afterwards for permissions. That part is done. User creation, automatically done for your people based on access from the automatic user creation section. So they just log in, and we create the accounts for them. So you don't have to do that. And basically enables you to go quickly here. They get in either through RDM or through the web interface, whatever use case they've been given or what they're involved in. If it's business users, they can go in through the web interface, even our browser extension. They can do that, web login, or again through Remote Desktop Manager. Their users will be created directly upon logging in for the first time. So all of that done, the biggest portion of user creation is covered, user management is done. Then you go in Remote Desktop Manager, and that's where the biggest part starts.
All right, so somebody asked a question to add on to that, and it's great because we're going into RDM, and I think it's a great RDM question. He says, Martin Zodi asked, will AD groups be supported in future versions to use as RDM groups like Devolution Server is doing?
No, it's not on a roadmap because, again, this is a Tier 3 system, and the decision was made to just put it in our Tier 2 systems.
Okay.
Because some of our customers are doing it. You know, we know customers that use the free edition. They store a file in Dropbox, and they use it as a team edition, and that brings issues. But some people are intent of not paying, and we're not doing anything to block this.
Sure.
Most of the people that are using, let's say, SQL Server are using database accounts to authenticate. This means that you can log in the database and poke about in there and look at stuff. Even though the passwords are encrypted and there's a lot of encryption, just knowing stuff in the database is a security risk. And that's why we have Tier 2, Tier 3 systems.
Sure.
And you should not be able to go in a database. We have built that custom authentication model for SQL Server, which means that you do not know the credentials for the database, but still, it doesn't preclude an admin of doing malicious acts. So, still, you see there, that's the database encryption. The middle tier I was mentioning to the right, only by protecting the database will you ever meet a Tier 2 system. So that's why we don't focus on adding features for AD group bindings, but still, you can do it. Some of our customers are doing it. They're adding users, AD users, to grant access to the SQL Azure database, and it does work, but it's still a Tier 2 system, a Tier 3 system in our view.
Okay. Martin added to this. I don't know if this adds to the question, but he says, we use SQL Server Enterprise with on-premise. So I don't know if that the whole user group, RDM group thing applies. If you answered the question or not, that's what I'm curious. He said they're using SQL Server Enterprise with on-premise.
But still, are they using database logins or?
Okay.
So that's the thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. All right. Very good.
Yeah, essentially, and again, it's all about the authentication database login versus domain authentication with Devolution Server. The database is essentially, from this document on the right here, the database is behind the Devolution Server web application. It's like a web application firewall. Yeah. We're just protecting the database, and there's no accounts involved here. So there's never any communication, and the encryption keys are at the server level. So the client never has this encryption key. The model is completely different here. So that's the difference between Tier 3 databases and the Tier 2 level that we have with Devolution Server.
Security is done by the middle tier, not by the client application.
Exactly.
So again, you decide, you look at your requirements, and you choose the solution that fits. And if you should be Tier 2, but you feel that Tier 3 is good enough for you, the choice is yours, We're not pushing anything. And RDM in itself has a steep learning curve. If you go outside of that 85% of mainstream stuff, we'll get to roles, binding roles to objects, and it's really, really flexible. But still, to our customers, we say the best practice is to grant permissions at the vault, maybe at the folders that are appearing at the root of that vault. definitely you can go at the 6th sub-level and set permissions on a specific entry, but you lose visibility and it increases the management time that you spend drastically. So we've always had that best practice, of segregating your entries as per similar security requirements, because it makes it so much easier to only handle permissions at the vault level or at the root folder levels. And I see root folders, there's a root, missing roots. We had, concept appears all the time, but it's the folders that you see at really to the left of your hierarchy.
Somebody just thumbs up, then they said they actually love this slide. They said the visual is great. And I know Maurice is big into architectural, like topographical things like that. Where can they find this? Is it on our...
It's on our security. It's right here. It's part of all of our documents. It's all. It's everything when it comes to security. Devolutions, our ISO 27001, 2013 certification, and other certifications as well. Other documents, development practices. They can all see it from there. But if we can share it in the chat, I don't know if they have a quick link. Somebody has the link at
if one of our users can put it in there. But if not, you just go to devolutions.net and go to the security tab, and you'll see it there.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense. No, I love that. Very cool. Very, very cool.
Yeah, we try to put in as much as possible. People can see, our commitment to security. We're very transparent when it comes to that, and we all know that security is very important. And again, I'll say it again: the best is yet to come. We still have more that we want to do here. We're going big when it comes to security. We want to be at the Maurice says that sometimes at the bleeding edge here of innovation, security. But we also need to keep speed, quickness, and compatibility in the rearview mirror, because if we try to be at the forefront, if we break something and it affects you, well, you stop being productive, and that's exactly the opposite that we want to reach with our product. So it's a dancing of all of these pillars and all of these aspects, and we strive to be again at the forefront of all of them. But it's a challenge, but we're up to it, and we have got great things coming in later this year and beyond.
Well, that's one thing too that we noticed, because I work a lot with Max and marketing and things like that, and that's one of the messages we've been trying to change. And the message is not just a marketing slogan like bringing productivity and security together. The idea. It sounds funny. We publish that to you and put it on our website, but it's actually an internal pill we have to digest, because we realize security is super important. But if it stops you from working, then there's no point, And then, but the opposite is, we know how crafty we are, and you are. So sometimes if something's too hard, we will find a way around it, And so we try to make it simple. I know you like the one but like one button, one lever, one way, and hiding credentials, hiding passwords. So it makes it simple. And we're learning. It's a big pill for us to swallow too. But we're really trying to listen to you, because we understand the world you live in, and because we live in the same world. So absolutely.
If you've been following the Password Hub product since its inception, it changed drastically. There used to be master keys and so on. We felt it was pushing security to the fullest, but then adoption, there was some resistance. It was too complex. It was really, really secure, but we modified it so you're not prompted as often and so on. So it becomes really much more user friendly.
Absolutely. No, it's good questions, though. Thank you guys so much. We have lots. The chat is doing really well. I know Dave's involved. We have about 200 people watching right now. So
Oh, excellent.
You guys are happy. So it's not just 5. So that's
no.
So we're good, Mark. But
just to focus on the 80 groups or whatever groups are coming, these most likely your organization already has them in place. You have, or in our simulation environment, we have operations, we have help desk, service desk. So it depends on if you're a multinational, if it depends on if you're MSP, but still you most likely have 80 groups built today that fit your organization. The intent is to use that same hierarchy to drive your role-based access control. So we don't require you to create a whole new parallel infrastructure. The objective is to tie in what you already have, because again, 95% of our customers already have that. They have these teams. So we tie in those teams, and that's what drives the role-based access control. So can we see?
Do you want to show? Let's dive into that. That'd be great. I think they're gonna.
Yeah. So again, going back to the example here of Windows and TFS in terms of application permission, going at the folder level here or at the root level, as Murray said, if it's something that you apply vault wide, you would do so at the vault level. Even starting with the default vault permissions that we've used, that's a good way for you to make things easier. So you would start from here. But if you prefer going granular, if you're very specific on entries, and that's the power here, is to go very specific on entries. If you want to go, for example, Cloud Zone, that's one of my parent folders, folder properties, you would go here under permissions. This is where the magic happens. So breaking the inheritance. Here is where you get to apply custom permissions. So from here, individual per item, view, add, edit, delete, view, move. That's a new permission, move. So if you want to prevent some people from moving entries, you would disable that from there, which in fact is allowed by default. But again, just switching to, in the drop down here, to never, or just granting it to some people, you would do so from here as well. Custom is where you get to choose here. By the way, administrators, they've got full permissions. Yeah. So they don't have any effects when you work with permissions here. Even if you want to create user groups that are admins, except that if it makes it easier for you in terms of management, permissions don't affect them. But we have a concept here of system permissions that allow for access delegation. So if you want to give permissions to some people where they get higher permissions, kind of a chain of command, if you will, that you can create with system permissions, where you can grant access to more of these types of permissions here within entries, and also in the administration section within Remote Desktop Manager. So as you can see here, again, individual items in terms of permissions, but obviously you don't necessarily want to go through these items individually. So you'd use our grant access feature, which is essentially if some of you are familiar with our batch edit, which allows you to change a whole lot of entries all at the same time, we can do the same thing with permissions. And so selecting a few items here, view, add, edit, delete, move, whatever you need in terms of permission application, you can select singular users and or groups of users.
And again, once if you decide to grant permissions to individuals, it becomes really work intensive.
Yeah, exactly.
Most likely you would want to grant only permissions to groups, wherever they may be. So that went quickly, but your groups, they can be bound to AD, or they could be also custom groups that we create even down to our T3 system with SQL Server. They're groups that we manage, but still, securables, ideally you would grant permissions only to groups, to containers of people.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, essentially, as Murray said, the groups here are containers of users. So essentially it gets you there quickly in terms of permission application. But again, both options exist. Should you decide to use singular users, you can do so, I said. But as Murray said, the most productive way is to go through groups of users. So once that is done, once you've created the hierarchy, once you've applied the needed permissions within a Remote Desktop Manager, the next phase for you is to validate that. One of the struggles is that they're not sure as to the result of applying permissions. So you want to see exactly what is happening in the background. What is it that you're doing? What is, again, the end result here that you can achieve? So you can validate all of that, and it's very easy here. Again, at the beginning, I mentioned that I was logged in with Bob. Bob is my administrator here. Yeah. So from our database drop down here, or data source drop down rather, I will take a different user login, Kelly, which is essentially our standard users with much different permissions here. Web interface login, this is the new authentication model for security purposes. This is done through the web interface now. So once that part is done, Kelly logs in. I'm in with Kelly. Now I have different permissions here. So essentially now I see things hidden. The administration tab has disappeared. I can no longer create new entries. Folder properties has been disabled for me. Properties as well for entries has been removed. So essentially the only thing that this person is allowed to do is to launch sessions. That's the only thing that that Kelly can do, and it's the end result that you can expect within Remote Desktop Manager when launching sessions. Once permissions are applied, you can go all the way down and ensure that only what is needed for your users has been granted through our permission system. And again, should you decide to give higher permissions, the system permissions are there if you want her to be able, or he or she, be given access to the administration section for user management and whatnot. The system permissions are designed to give you access delegation.
Yep. And we're intending, at least for the Devolution Server part, to explode the administrator role because, at Devolutions being SOC 2 and ISO, we've needed to look at our security posture, and our IT team, they have full control over some areas, and then you have the DevOps team that have full control over another area, and they cannot be allowed to take control over the other team. So we need full isolation, so they need to be full admins in their area, but still the IT team, that's the team that creates users, so it brings really a complexity. So the fact of importing a unique user is one role, is one objective, but allowing that person to access a vault is completely different.
Yeah.
So that's why we need to explode, because again, our MSP customers, they want to have full visibility on the full control over a specific vault granted for individual staff, because you have a team that takes care of customers A through L, and then another team that takes care of the rest of the customers. So they want that flexibility of having full, complete rights within their domain only.
Yeah, exactly. And one thing that to mention here is the ability to segment information. So what we've looked a lot at the permissions today at the entry level. We've shown for you to switch between users if you want to validate that. I think it's the quickest way for you to validate permissions, in fact, to switching between user accounts within RDM. It's quick and you get to see what is happening. But there's also the ability within all of our databases, in fact, within Remote Desktop Manager, where the vaulting capability exists, where you can create vaults, essentially for each team that you have or customers that you have to manage, the ability to create vaults, give you the ability to segment information, but each vault will have its own permission sets, its own access rights, will have their own users as well, all confined within their own vaults. And at the vault level, you can prevent access to other users from being able to see the other vaults within.
And it's really simple. I think you can show it in a few seconds.
Yeah. Absolutely. So back within the interface here, this is the drop-down for the vaults. So I can easily switch between all of them. So Windjammer IT is the one I have right now, but I could switch to Telemark with another set of items here. So as you can see, other entries. It could be another department. It could be customers. And from there are the different permissions. I could switch to Windjammer Marketing from there as well. Another team, another customer. That's the principle here, the vaulting capability, is that we get to have one database. This is only one database, but it's containers within the database, essentially vaults. And you get to segment information within those, but it also at the same time makes performance a lot more snappy. Should you have thousands and thousands of entries to manage, it makes that easier, but it's also about permission delegation and perhaps a way for you to make it easier in terms of management, because you're reducing the amount of information to manage per vault, and it's just less between each vault, and it's easy to switch between these vaults. And you get to see all of that. You have full oversight over the vaults as an administrator.
Actually, we have a new feature in that area. You now have a warning if you have higher than X number of entries.
5,000, yes.
Well, 5,000 is for tier 3 systems.
Tier 3, okay.
And the Devolution Server is 4,000.
4,000.
The Password Hub Business is 2,000 or 3,000. So you have a different warning based on your chosen backend. So that's not really worth mentioning in the new features area, but still, we had a customer that was that had imported 75,000 entries in a vault. And it's not meant for that, really.
Sure. You know, one thing so there's several questions people keep referring back to that PowerPoint.
Yeah.
They're like, that tier. We need to show this to our customers. If we have is that and Jenny asked the question too. Is that something you don't mind sharing with everybody afher? We
can for
send
sure. I'll generate a PDF and we'll send it.
We'll send it in our thank you email with the link to the YouTube video as well, because I know people want to watch.
That's what I wanted to say.
Yes.
You created not too long ago.
Yes.
A bunch of videos for the roles and permissions.
Okay, yeah.
We do have a landing page for getting started for teams. And most of what Mark has presented is in there in clear steps.
Yeah.
There's some reflection we need, you know, to think about your organization, the type of security that you need to apply, and group your entries depending on their tiers for your own infrastructure, and so on. So that getting started for teams is really a good starting point.
Yeah, we've been trying to. One thing we're trying to do also is do more of that type of content, because I know especially for you folks, it's so easy to consume that, because I know we write blogs and articles on that stuff. But it's, I think, a lot easier for you to just watch a video and say that. Oh, I see it. Yeah. But bear with us, because it's when we change editions already, things change overnight. So we have to redo videos, and that's okay. But the more you ask for them, the better we get.
Like
absolutely. Right now, I'm doing a Password Hub, getting started Password Hub. I've been working with France on all that, and even in the process of making the video, we said, "Oh, now we're adding SSO," and I was like, "Oh, okay." So I'm gonna have to do another video on that, but that's okay. But the feedback is super, super important for us.
If James, if you're on, you can find a link for the getting started for teams, please.
Yeah, and that one, I think Jenny put that one together. That for the
I use it heavily. I share it heavily.
Yeah, it's very, very good though.
Yeah.
So we'll try to make that content. And if you're not subscribed to our YouTube channel, make sure you're subscribed. Give us a thumbs up. No, it really helps, because you see our content. It's mainly how-tos and tutorials and random videos once in a while. But that'll be something that'll help you out as much as possible. We'll also make this video available in the future, because some of you are in Europe now and you have to watch this later. We have about 15 minutes left or so. So is there anything, what else would you like to go over in priority you think that would be good?
Maybe one other item that I feel, can help our users have a tremendous impact on their choices, but also on their daily lives, is our use cases, where we present problems that could essentially tick some boxes on your end.
Sure.
And essentially from there, you get to see our solutions presented, our advices as well. One of the things that we have here is our comparison between self-hosted and Password Hub. Two tier 2 choices. And from there, we present the ones where they meet together, where they cover both. But we also present questions. And so if these questions make sense to you, well, you get to see what is the choice here that you need to move forward with. Do you need to authenticate users via LDAP, Active Directory on-prem? So if so, you would go with Devolution Server. Do you need privilege access management? If so, Devolution Server is designed for that. Do you need an on-premise for compliance or security purposes? If you were wondering between Password Hub, but then at the end of the day, compliance or security purposes, trump over everything else, you would choose Devolution Server as well. And then in the deployment here, we get to describe here what is involved between both solutions. And so those are the types of use cases that you can expect. I don't know if we've shared the link for use cases in the chat here of Hopin.
He just, Richard just did. So yeah.
Oh,
thank
excellent.
you so much. So he put it there. So it's on devolutions.net.
Yeah.
Solutions use case, but he put the link in there for you to be able to access those as well. Yeah.
Yeah, plenty of documents there for you to see, and you get to find, solutions to problems that might not come today, but might come in the future, and they're designed to give you basically a high-level overview of what is needed to address these concerns and challenges.
Absolutely. Yeah, and one thing you'll notice too, our team has been doing a really been working in your department, to make the website much more functional, like even the forum and the help and things like that. Yeah, we're trying to make things easier for you to find, because we know we look right now, we've had hundreds of questions already, and you have questions, and many times some things are answered, but you say, well, how do I answer? I get this, and you can always contact us. Our team is on fire. They're always helping you out, but sometimes for the sake of time, there's some great resources out there that we're doing our best to put together. So,
well, in fact, the support team, we ask them, your answer should be a link to something somewhere.
Sure.
Rather than typing a response every time. Because if one customer requests that information, there's most likely multiple customers that would need that. So it's not always possible. We have a lot of media to support, that forums, those blogs, our KB, the online help. And it's a challenge because we would need multiple technical writers per team, I think, to follow the rapidity of development that we have here.
Sure, absolutely. But we're listening to you, because I know that was lots of good questions about that. So check out our website often. It's a living, it's a very organic website. So and sometimes buttons disappear, but no, our team is really good at getting things out there, and we change it as soon as possible to make it easier for you. Is there anything else we wanted to show or talk about, or any?
Just a reminder, we've been talking a lot about this today. Feedback. It just really is critical to us. I take notes extensively, when I do calls, when I have discussions and sales support with our customers. Your feedback really is critical to us, and don't shy away. Anything that comes to your mind really is important, because it helps us shape our products to your needs. And this is critical, because you are the users of the product. You're the ones who use it extensively, whether you're power users or your day-to-day users of our product. Still, it's your tool, it's your screwdriver, it's your hammer. It really is, we have to sharpen it. We have to sharpen our toolbox, and we want to make sure that within the sysadmin toolbox, all the tools you need are there. And if some are missing, we need to see if we can add them. And if we can, hopefully we can, it makes your life easier every day. And it's just, you don't have to look anywhere else. It becomes, again, your all-in-one stop shop for all of your IT asset management.
Very good, yeah. Is there anything else? I have a couple closing remarks, but little people to thank. My mother at home watching right now. No. But I have one more thing I wanted to get to. But is there anything you wanted to add, Mo?
There's tons more that we couldn't show. There are reports, there are alerts and notifications depending on your back end of choice. So there's way more. Again, really rich. But if you stick to the 85% mainstream, it's quite simple. So contact us if you need help. Look at the getting started for teams, and we'll improve the documentation and the training as far as we can.
Yeah, absolutely. And let us know too, and you can let us know in the chat, because the chat log will save it. We actually look through the whole chat log and to answer questions on a one-on-one basis if we miss anything. But let us know if you like these type of webinars. We know you do, because 400 something people signed up for it. But if you say, I really would like Mo and Mark to show this. Now, I'm not talking necessarily just your problem or your bug, okay? But I'm talking about something that would be general to the community, because some people may say, oh, Devolutions helped me out with this, and it really improved our structure. And that's what that's why we wanted to talk a little bit more about permissions and user groups and where we're headed with that today. But that's why we do these things. So the next webinar, actually, I'm going to be doing with Mo.
Yep.
And was it Francis?
François.
François will be there
Frank.
as well. Yeah. So Frank is going to be there with Mo and I, and that's March 16th. And we're going to be doing Devolution Server specifically. I know we talked about it today. So privilege access management, check in, check out, all those things, right?
Yeah, the gateway, a lot of time on the gateway because it's quite popular.
It's
and
evolving too.
attention.
Yeah. So if you want to join Mo for that one, you go to our website and click on events, and you can register for that event directly. But we have some, and then I think we have another one on Hub coming up after that as well.
For sure.
So, but if there's something specific, you let us know, because that's why we do this. We didn't just show up and look pretty just for nothing today. No, we did it because you had questions on specific things. So that's what we're here for. So if there's any other questions, I know people have been answering in the chat as well on our team. Thank you for all of our team that's been helping out with that. So thank you so much for watching from all around the world. I know we have some great people everywhere. And thank you for staying up for us, because it might be late where you might be. So have a great rest of your day. We hope this was beneficial and productive for you. But thank you so much, and we appreciate this and appreciate your input. So have a great day.
Cheers.